So you say you don't want to learn 5, 10, maybe 15 keyboard shortcuts. You want to go ahead and press on and learn how this ribbon thing works so that you can pop into these newer versions of the programs. That's fine, actually. It's really nice. I personally like the keyboard stuff, and I do a mix between keyboard and mouse to do a lot of selection. The keyboard is quicker, so if speed is of the essence, it really does help to know your keyboard, and the more of those shortcuts you know, the better. Regardless, if you want to get into the ribbon, I will introduce you to its parts and we'll kind of go from there. So, the basic pieces of this ribbon are the tabs, the groups, what they have as dialog drops downs. I call them breakouts, whatever. And the command buttons themselves, or they are just icons on the ribbon. They refer to those as command buttons. You'll see when you start messing around with the ribbon here, and please feel free to kind of click around on stuff. You know, at least open up a test document. It's just start popping into things and see what they are. The wording, the names for things hasn't really changed. Microsoft has always kind of had its own way of talking. There's a thing called Microsoft Speak. Regardless, if you understood that and you are familiar with what they call things, then you should be able to cruise around the ribbon fairly well because it will have the names on the items, the command buttons. Remember those keyboard shortcuts though? If you press the Alt key, you will display the shortcuts. The good old fashioned Control P for print and Control S for save and that kind of thing. So your drop down menus, File, Edit, View, used to be Alt F, Alt E, Alt V kind of a thing. You can still do that. So just hitting the Alt key by itself turns those on. So I'll show those to you here. Let's go through the parts and then we'll hit a couple of things with the Alt key. So in the 2010 interface, like I said, they brought back the file drop down, and these are basically tabs across the top here. You just click on each tab and see how the whole ribbon changes. So I'm going to go to the page layout tab, boom, boom, boom. So they have a tab for pretty much everything you were used to going into in menu items, and what you're going to see is it's actually quicker and easier to get to things and find things. What I like to say is new users are getting in and doing ultra, what I would consider high level advanced stuff just because they can now get to it. Look at this. Here we have mail merge. And if you've done mail merge for years, you'll know that from one version to the next, they changed the way they called it, whatever it was that they were using. Letters and envelopes, mail merge, etc. And they changed the position in the drop down menu, so you had to go find it every time anyway. Now, just by clicking across the top, boom, there it is, and I can say mail merge. I wonder what that means, and see how envelopes and labels are still here. So these are the tabs. As you click each tab, your ribbon's going to change. Inside each tab, and the home tab is the default, not the file, the home tab, because this is kind of like your standard toolbar and formatting toolbars combined. So regardless, in here you have the tab itself, and then you have the groups. So this is the clipboard group, the font group, the paragraph group. So you can see there's a little divider between each one. And as you click in the group itself and make selections, you are dealing solely with things in this area. All right. These little guys in the corner, this is how you break out those little dialog boxes that you're familiar with. So I'm actually going to hit that. If you've ever gone and made font changes, there we go. Look familiar? Okay, so anytime you're interested, like here's paragraph settings, anytime you're interested in getting to a very familiar look, hit those little drop down arrows because this will put you right into stuff you're used to seeing. Alright, so these are the pieces, the tabs, the groups, the command buttons themselves. They refer to these as command buttons. One kind of interesting thing about this is it has it's an interactive, very interactive tool. Like selecting an item actually produces ribbon tabs related to that item, and it also lets you do things to it kind of on the fly. So this is non-color text. Oops. Now I highlight my text, and this is one of the pieces I didn't show yet. It's the mini. See it? Look at. See how it comes and goes. The closer I get to it, the clearer it gets, or the sharper it gets. The further away I got, the more it fades away. Alright, what this little guy does is it gives you all the most common, like here's our little format painter, bold, italics, underline, centering, and all that. So your font stuff. These are kind of the more commonly used options when you've highlighted text. So you highlight some text, and this little guy pops up. Alright, that's the mini toolbar. So when you highlight text, it automatically pops up. Okay? By the way, should you happen to scroll all the way away, it's gone. Like, gone for good. If I right click, hey, it pops right back. Alright? So in any case, anytime you highlight things, that's going to happen. Now, I'm going to actually put some tabs in here so you can see this while I'm doing it. I'm going to go up to my ribbon, and I'm going to hit my font color. Now watch what happens as I go scrolling through these colors. I don't know if you're going to see this or not. I guess I need to highlight you guys again. There we go. You catching that? It's changing colors as I work my way through these color options. Isn't that cool? It's a lot more interactive than it used to be. Let's play with more colors. I think I'm pushing the limits here. But regardless, when you start touching options, it changes immediately. All right, and that's everything. Highlighting. Let's do our font size. Now watch. I'm touching sizes. Pretty cool, huh? So you can totally see what's happening before you click it. I'm not selecting these. I'm just looking at them just to see what it'll do. Want to change fonts? Remember how much of a pain it was to try to figure out what your font was going to look like? Here we go. Alright? By the way, I'm using the arrow key to do this, so you can work your way through all of them. Oh, look at that guy right there. Pretty cool. Alright? Again, my best buddy escape key gets me right out of that. If I were to insert, let's see if I can do one of my shapes here. Microsoft has introduced Smart Art and these shapes. So let me go ahead and do this. Let's see, communicate information visually, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, when you go to insert options, you can, let's just grab a shape here. Alright, now that I have put something, if this were an image, a picture, an embedded object, like a Word document in a PowerPoint presentation, I get these. Okay? These are the contextual tabs. Pardon me. The contextual tabs are relative to whatever you have highlighted. If I go back to my text, I just get the standard tabs going across here. But if I click this object, I get this new one. It says Drawing Tools, formatting the drawing. And again, you kind of get the same thing that happens with our text. Let me hit the shape fill, see what's going on here. So we get our colors again. Pretty slick. Alright, this will happen with, like I said, images, art, charts, and graphs, that kind of thing. In other applications like Microsoft Access, it'll come up depending on what you're highlighting inside that program, and same thing with Outlook or Excel. Okay? That is called contextual tabs. There's a lot of new terms with this 2007-2010 interface. Don't get too hung up on the terms, and just understand that these things do exist now. All right, back over to the presentation here, and I do want to point out that pressing the Alt key does show you the old way of doing things. Let me get back into my text here. All right. When I click the text, I go to the Home tab. If I hit the Alt key, there it is. Alt F, like Alt FX was exit, Alt FA was save as. Alt shows me that if I hit the F, I go there. If I hit the H, I will go to the Home tab. N for insert, P for page layout, etc. And then there's numbers now, 1, 2, and 3. Didn't used to really play with numbers a whole lot in the older versions, but if you hit Alt 1, you will save your document. Alt 2 and Alt 3. Okay? There's one other piece here I want to point out. This little guy right here. Okay, there's a little tiny itty bitty toolbar up there. And what this does is this is actually called the quick access toolbar. And this is how you get to things really quick. New document, open document, save, all of that stuff. You can even go add more commands, but here's our print, preview, and print, by the way. So the first time that I got into Office and hit the little drop down, I went right to print, preview, and print. So it took me like 3 seconds to figure out how to do that. That's because when I teach people basic applications use, you always start in the upper left and start clicking your way across. So it only took me a couple clicks, and I was right on here. All right. By the way, quick print, I'm going to hit that. I don't know if it'll do it or not, but I've got my printer hooked up here. That means just go with whatever's there. So you can either go with whatever's there, or you can start playing around with settings. Okay? Oh, by the way, these are toggles, so when you hit the check mark, you turn that on or off. Okay, so anyway, that kind of wraps up the basics on the ribbon itself. And so I just want to show one last thing here before we wrap up this lesson on the ribbon itself. One of the biggest complaints people came up with when the ribbon first came out was it's taken up half of my screen or a third of my screen. My gosh, this is horrible. How am I supposed to even do anything? Well, that's actually untrue, and in a lot of ways the ribbon actually takes up less space than the old standard formatting toolbars. If you were a toolbar junkie, you might have 3 or 4 lines of toolbars, which completely blows this ribbon out of the water. However, that does not negate the fact that sometimes it'd be really nice to see more of your document. So I just got used to doing it on the Home tab. If you double click on the Home tab, you make it disappear. If you double click on it again, you bring it back. Or I'm sorry, I guess I should have just said single click. Alright, so regardless, double click makes that little puppy go away. And now they kind of look like drop down menus, huh? Anyway, that kind of wraps up this particular lunch lesson, and we would like to thank you very much for your time and attention. This is lunchlesson.com. Go to principal.org if you're interested in some business coaching or personal coaching, where you can get into things like life hacking, which is using the computer to completely redesign your life so that you can be as effective and efficient as possible, and for small business assistance and small business help and coaching to make the most of your business. Thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next lunch lesson.